I've found over the last 7 years, 8 years, and this is one of those leadership things, right? I don't have to make all the calls. And there's not going to be anybody that I'm going to measure up that's going to be 100% make the right call for me, right? If I can find somebody that's going to make 80% of the right decisions, I'll live with the extra 20% because I'm getting more time out of it.
Chad, welcome to the show, brother. How's it going?
It's going awesome, man. It's a great day here in Texas.
Awesome, bro. What's the weather like out there today?
It's a little overcast and about 85 degrees. So it's a nice day for the end of May or the middle of May. Usually we're at 100 degrees right now. So
it's coming, bro.
It's coming.
Yeah. It's coming. Don't worry. Don't worry. Come June, July, man, that humidity will just kick in and it'll get hot.
Bakes you.
Good old Texas, man. So you're actually tuning in from Muenster, Texas, right? Which is close to Oklahoma.
Yeah, we're close, but we're not in Oklahoma.
Right.
Like we're in Texas.
Yeah.
We've got at least a good 5 miles between us and Oklahoma.
Yeah. So one thing I live in Houston. And one thing coming from the Northeast, right? One thing I quickly learned is that when it rains in Texas, it storms, dude. I'm not a fan of storms. That's my least favorite part about Texas. Yeah. And it's like the thunder out there is just different. People don't understand. It's just different. So
and everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything, man. Holy smokes. And I know up there, man, like you're kind of in the alley a little bit.
We get that tornado alley, and we actually had part of our facilities blown down about 10 years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah, we had a microburst that came and took a bunch of grain bins down.
And that doesn't made a mess of things. At all?
Oh, if I said it didn't keep me up at night, I'd be lying.
Yeah, man.
So
I don't know. Not a fan personally.
Yeah.
I'll take snow over supercells any day.
Yeah.
But anyways, brother, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Really excited to share your story with our listeners. Now, Chad, for the people that aren't familiar with you and your work, can you just give us a brief overview?
Yeah, so I'm the fourth generation owner of a small pet food company in Muenster, Texas. So we've been around since 1932. My great grandfather started it. I've been here since, I was tall enough to see over the top of a feed sack. So we've been, the family's been around, we've been running it. And I worked all through high school at it, went to college, graduated from college, and Dad kicked me out and said, go learn business somewhere else. And so I went and worked for a grocery store. Then I went back and got my master's, and then I went and worked for one of the large grain companies in the U.S. And, after about 7 years and 13 addresses, my wife said, I'm not moving again. So you get one more chance to move. And that's when I kind of decided to jump back into the family business. So
you were moving
Texas.
Around a little bit during that whole process?
Yeah. I lived anywhere between Texas and North Dakota. So okay. When you talk about snow, I lived in Grand Forks, North Dakota in January for about 6 months. And for this Texas boy, that's pretty cold.
Oh yeah, man. It's nothing like some 0 degrees, right?
Yeah, it's like
I'm not a fan of that shit. They can keep it.
Yeah, there's nothing between you and the North Pole but a barbed wire fence.
Wow, man. So fourth generation pet food business.
Yes.
This is a first for me too, because I know absolutely nothing about the pet food business. So super excited to learn.
We're gonna teach you something.
I'm excited. So fourth generation, looking at your website, I see that the company was actually founded in 1932. Is that correct?
1932. And
1932. By your great-grandfather?
Yeah, by my great-grandfather. And so, when my grandpa died probably five years ago, actually 3 years ago. Sorry. We kind of were going through some of his stuff, and we found some banknotes from 1929, and we were like, well, did it start in 1929 or 1932? And everything says 1932. So, so that's what we roll with. But we found some banknotes, and there's numbers stamped in the concrete that are 1927 actually.
Wow.
So it's
I mean that's going on 80 years, right? Like holy smokes, man. Like you hear about companies that have been around for that long, but very rarely do you get to be one of them, right? Like you get to step into those shoes, man. There's some big shoes to fill. What do you think has been the reason why you guys have been able to be in business for 80 plus years?
You know, it all starts with the customer, and it all starts basically at taking care of somebody, right? And so when our great grandfather started, it wasn't a pet food company; it was a flour mill, and so he started it to provide a way for farmers here to sell their grain, right? And the people needed flour. It's back in the 1930s, the Great Depression was going on, and so it was all a way to serve the community. Right. And so we've been in the community for 88 plus years now. And so the community's built around us, and we're a big part of the community. And so it just all comes back from supporting others and supporting that community and helping build the community out. And so, you know, over the years, we've evolved. And at one point, the believe it or not, the largest cheese plant in the nation was in Muenster, Texas. And there again, we switched from making all flour over to dairy feed so that we could support the local dairy farmers. And basically they supported us. And then, you know, at one point we made all the immune ostrich feed for the US, or a big chunk of the immune ostrich feed for the US. That's back in the early 90s when that really got started and up and going. And then it was gone in a flash. And so then we've fine-tuned our dog food part of it, and now that's really where we are. Is we're doing dog food, and we've just recently built or added another facility and are starting into the freeze-dried world, which is completely new for us and for a lot of the dog food industry. And so we try to keep on that razor's edge at the lead, right, and at the very beginning. So
And I like that, Chad. I think that's super important. You said that you're constantly evolving, and a lot of businesses in 2020 just have refused to evolve, and it shows, right? It shows. Like a lot of these businesses have already been phased out. Yep. You know, I mean, we all know like the famous Blockbuster story, right? They refused to adapt, and they got smoked, right? And they paid the price for it. And then we saw Toys R Us, right? Toys R Us refused to adapt over the years, and they got smoked for it. So it's necessary, right? In business, you have to evolve. I'm sure that you guys are digital now, right? To reach a larger audience. So selling stuff online, right? Taking advantage of Amazon and all the retailers.
Yeah, so we actually went from about 7 years ago, we were selling online, and I think we had one customer that was in Dallas, and I think she qualified as an online buyer, but 9 times out of 10, she'd call the office, and we just ran it through the website so that we could say we were selling online, right? So we were selling like maybe 4 bags a month online 7 years ago. And now we're selling roughly 500 or 600 bags a week online.
Wow.
No
kidding, man.
Yeah.
So I'm super curious as to what actually goes into creating pet food. So I'll give you my vision, and let's see if this is accurate. So you have to start off with the science, I'm sure, right? Like there's some there's like a scientist involved that figures out like what
there's
ingredients needs to go in, and then there's some sort of sourcing, right? Like you have to source your ingredients somewhere, and then when you get everything, there's like the process of putting everything together,
right?
actually creating it.
Yeah.
And then has to be some sort of testing, right? I'm sure like you have to test a product.
Yeah. Yeah. So think of it as like you're baking a cake. That's the easiest way to go about it. So everybody starts with a recipe, right? So if you're doing red velvet versus a vanilla cake, there's different ingredients there, right? And so that's kind of how dog food is. There's different ingredients. So there's different bases. And each dog food has got a little different base. So you may have a chicken meal based, and that's based out of chicken meal. You may have a pork meal base, and fish meal or a beef meal base, right? And so it all kind of is structured around this protein because a dog is a monogastric, and they're really designed. They're omnivores, but really they're carnivores at the heart, right? You think about a wolf or anything like that, National Geographic, they're not strolling through a cornfield. They're eating on dead animals or preying on animals. And so that's our philosophy. So we get our recipes from a PhD nutritionist. He helps us. We set targets on a protein, on a fat level, all that kind of stuff, because there's different types of dogs, just like there's different types of people, right? So you have some athletes, you have some show dogs, different dogs have different nutrient requirements too. And there's different allergies. Honestly, it's an extension of a human. And so it's become, everybody shops that way too. So my dog's allergic to chicken. So we've got different formulas that kind of try to fit that mold. Right. And so you're taking all your base mixes and you grind them up into a flour. So it's just like a cake. So it's a flour. It's, 3/64 of an inch. It'll fit through a sifter of that nature. Then we run it through our extruder, which is a process that heats it up, kind of adds water and steam, batters it. We run it through the extruder, which pressurizes it and kind of that creates the pellets. So just like your Cheerios, if you eat Cheerios or any cereal, the same process to make that cereal is what we use to make dog food as well.
Oh, wow. So it's the same.
It's the same process. Same process.
There you go. Okay. So it goes from a flour to a solid. It's those little pebbles like we all know.
Yeah, like Fruity Pebbles, whatever. Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
It's the same. It's the same process. It runs through a dryer. We take a lot of the moisture out, and then basically for dog food we'll coat it with fat. So we'll put fat on the outside, whether it be chicken fat or canola oil or salmon oil or whatever. We put that on the outside of it. Put it in a bag, seal it. We're testing it before we put it in a bag. So we take samples throughout the run, make sure it meets its minimum, the guaranteed analysis on the back of the bag, and seal it, ship it out, go on down the road.
Boom. Wow.
It's
a cool process.
Yeah. So it's simplified, but it's not. And so that's another area where we are evolving is, so we had this great idea, like we'll take one of our standard formulas and we can add different things to it. And so we'll customize one bag at a time, kind of like Subway. So you go online, you can pick, hey, I want this added to my bag of dog food. We add it to it, seal it back up, ship it to you, and it's your own bag of dog food. So if you want extra salmon oil to hit omega-3s, let's say, I don't know, you got a hardworking dog. It's the winter and dogs outside all the time, burning a lot of protein, a lot of fat. You can add our freeze-dried elk to it and salmon oil or bacon fat. You name it, we can add it to it.
Customize it. Okay, people, man, when it comes to dogs and dog owners, they want the best of the best for their dogs. So they get fancy, right? They get fancy with it. That's super cool, man. So what? How many different types of food do you create? Like how many different animals do you service, basically?
Man, so we've serviced anywhere from crocodiles to rats.
No kidding. Wow. So you're covering all, like, the whole spectrum.
We cover the whole spectrum. I mean, we've made racing camel food before. I didn't know there was a thing such as racing camels. I didn't know it was a huge industry, but we made some racing camel food and sent it to Saudi Arabia. And like, I was like, I didn't realize that was huge. Did you know that racing camels are bigger than the Kentucky Derby?
No shit.
And if you want to go down a rabbit hole,
I had no clue.
Get started on a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Chad. Do you make baby formula?
No, I don't make baby formula.
Damn it! I need some of that, man. Hey, there's good money in baby formula, man.
There is good money.
Add that little leg to the business.
Yeah.
And give me a call, man. Man, holy smokes! I just had a 4-month. Oh, I have a 4-month-old, and we're looking at
awesome.
like. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm looking at like the cost of this stuff. I'm like, holy smokes, this is more expensive than what I eat. Yeah. I bought 2 pairs of socks. It was like $12. I'm like, I can go to Ross or Marshalls and buy a 12-pack.
Yeah,
cheaper than that. Like, I'm in the wrong biz, man.
Yeah,
but no, it's super awesome, man. And I mean, you guys are cranking, right? 80 years in the game. You must have a huge customer base, right? People that trust you, know your product, and they keep coming back. And you said earlier that you have to know your customers. So let's talk about that. How has the company grown over the last like 80 years, like since you've been involved at least?
Yeah, so the customer base itself, you know, we have some anchored tenants that have been with us for 30 years, right? And what's beautiful is there's guys that I met when I was 5 years old and they were 8 years old because our dads worked together. So that's like the uniqueness of the family business. And so we still, you know, we've got guys that the families have worked together for 2-3 generations on the input side and on the output side on the customer base. And so where we've gone is, and how we innovate for these customers is we try to provide, we're staying on the leading edge. Hey, here's a new trend in dog food. We think you should look at it for your dog food. Like, hey, we're working on some CBD stuff. Hey guys, let's start putting some CBD in here. Let's figure out how we can put this in here and get you back on that leading edge from a dog food standpoint. And, you know, sometimes it's met with, that's just that newfangled stuff, right? And so you really have to help push them and get them across that finish line. And so it's more of a partnership than it is, hey, you're just a customer, you need to pay me right now. Like we truly value it and look at it from a partnership standpoint, because we deal mainly with independents. So we don't deal with any large organizations or corporations. So PetSmart, Walmart, any of those guys, we don't mess with them because we don't have an impact on somebody's life, right? And so when we're dealing with the farm and feed store down the road, we're like, hey Joe, we can help you. We can put better margin in your pocket. Like we can help you grow your business, because, for example, the CBD or these mill toppers or this freeze dried, hey, let's give you this to offer it. And it's going to be something that your customers are seeing. They're seeing on Chewy. You're not on Chewy, but hey, we can cut them off at the pass. Like, let's help you with your customers, because most of our customers have been ingrained in their communities, and they have a great name and when somebody gets a new puppy, I'm gonna go see Fred down at the farm store. He'll take care of me. He'll give me a good bag of dog food. And so, and Fred looks at us and he's like, hey, I need puppy food at Christmas time, right? Everybody's getting puppies. I need some good puppy food. So we're able to help him bridge that gap and really help him keep the customers coming back to him. So it's all about a win-win situation.
Now, I'm curious, because that model obviously works at scale, right? I think, that model works on a local level, right? Because I think generally people in communities, especially small towns, they love to support small businesses, especially right now through this whole COVID stuff, right? Small businesses are getting a lot of attention from communities. And, you know, I admire that about, I come from a small town myself, right? We had a local hardware store that people would go to over going to Home Depot.
Yeah.
But at scale, right? Like, you can't just call up Michael in the middle of, you know, Milwaukee and say, hey, Michael, did you buy your dog food this week? I mean, like at scale, when you have thousands of customers, it really, I mean, that's a challenge. So, like, how does that impact, like, your values?
Yeah, so that's where we're trying to establish those connections online with our customers through the customized dog food solutions, through different things like that. So, you know, for Michael, hey, you're going to get an email in Milwaukee. Hey, it's, you know, we set you up on auto ship. Hey, you're getting a bag every 6 weeks or every 4 weeks or every 3 weeks. Like, it's shipping directly to your house. You don't get chewed out by the wife because you forgot dog food. You know, it's coming directly to you. And at the end of the day, we have to provide a service that Amazon or Chewy or somebody like that can't provide. And, you know, the service that we provide for most people is you're buying it direct from the manufacturer. So the dog food you get from us is 30 days old at max. The dog food you get from Chewy or from Amazon it's been through 3 different warehouses. It's 6 months old by the time you get it. And so you're getting a fresher product. And really the biggest connection is for us, where we see it, is none of these bigger companies like Purina or anybody like that is really going onto Facebook. Like, so we ate dog food for 30 days. My brother ate dog food for 30 days, and that's it.
No way.
Only ate our products for 30 days.
Wait. Your brother ate dog food as a primary meal for 30 days?
Not only primary, nothing but dog food for 30 days in January.
Man, does it taste good?
You know, it tastes like what you would think dog food would taste like. It's like grape nuts.
Man, no, I've tried. This is weird, but I took a bit out of a dog biscuit one time, bite, just to see. That thing tastes like wood, man. That thing is terrible. How'd he make it through 30 days?
You know, it's just a lot of pride and determination.
What was the point he was trying to prove?
Well, the point of it is none of these other CEOs or owners of companies are going to eat their own product for 30 days. Like, that's how we trust. That's how much we trust our dog food. You know, you're talking about your 4-month-old, right? So let's say your grandma that's got a 4-year-old dog, and that's all she's got, right? Like, that is her little baby. We've all got a grandma that's got a little puppy that you almost wonder if all the inheritance is going to go to the dog when she passes away, right?
Oh yeah.
And so people have that relationship with their dog, and they, you know, we value that, and we're trying to make that as we're really trying to keep that going, and, you know, make sure that they feel confident in what they're feeding their animal, right? Like, why would you feed your dog something that you wouldn't eat yourself? That's part of it, right?
I understand where you're going. Well, most people would say, well, because it's intended for dogs, and dogs are dogs and humans are humans. But I get where you're going with it, right? Like, it makes sense. Like, it just does, right? Like, I know if I was to take a sip of my daughter's baby formula, like, nothing bad's gonna happen to me, because I trust that it's safe for her, it's safe for me, right? Whatever. Right. But I get where you're going. I get it, and that's very admirable, right? Because it's like you might have that small business mentality, but you're by no means a small business. Like, well, not to me, at least, right? And not to many other people. Looking at the numbers, I mean, how many people are you currently employing?
We have 60 people on staff.
Yeah, 60. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
it's nice size of nice team size right there. 60
Yeah.
people covering like all different aspects of the business, right? I'm sure you
Yeah.
got the office workers, you got the factory workers.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah,
just at the top, man. You're responsible for the whole
Yeah.
for the whole shit, man. The captain.
Yeah. Yeah, I got 60 mortgages to pay every night. That's what I think about when I go to bed. There's 60 people out there counting on me for a mortgage, right?
60 people. So how has the COVID situation impacted your operation?
So it's impacted us, but I like to think, and this is just my saying, but COVID's the biggest excuse that everybody wanted. It's an excuse for anything you can name. Oh, well, I can't do it because of COVID, right? And I've really tried to flip the script on our guys, and I'm like, we're doing this because of COVID. Like, this is going to help us. Like 6 months down the road, like anything that comes after this is going to be small potatoes, right? Like, I go back to, we were started in 1932. What was going on in 1932? That wasn't like great times to be starting a business.
True.
Is so like it happened. It's here, but it's not going to slow us down. Like, we've made adjustments. We split our shifts, and it really, like, great teams rise to the occasion. And that's what I told everybody. I was like, look, great teams are going to rise to the occasion, and some people are going to fight it on the team, but we've got to pick each other up. Like, it's just going to be tough. And there's no bones about it, but we're here for our customers. We're here for each other, and we're going to keep pushing through it. And so honestly, it's done nothing but made us better, because it really stopped us, and we had to stop and focus on, okay, what's important? How are we addressing these issues? What issue may come up that we have to change our stance on, right? We switched to working basically split shifts. So I've got different crews at every different place. And so the great thing about it is it's made our communication better. Like, it's now all of a sudden like, all right, guys, I'm not going to be at the feed mill or the plant, or I'm trying to keep everybody safe. So we're not going to commingle, right? So you're on your team, you're the little nucleus, and you've got to communicate back to your team members. I got to communicate to you, but you've got to communicate on to your team members. Sorry. And so it's like really forced that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it, man. Hey, I like it. Fortunately, I'm sure has anybody gotten sick in your
No, we've been lucky that we haven't had anybody. There's been some people, like, we had some people coming back off of vacation, right, but kind of like they were gone on vacation because it was spring break. They had taken their kids to Florida or wherever, and things changed so rapidly. I was like, look, guys, this is no fault of your own, but you're going to stay at home for 14 days. I'll cover your paycheck. I'm not like, look, this is going to be painful for everybody. I'm going to cover your paycheck. You stay at home. I don't want to get anybody else sick. I don't think that you're sick, but let's just play it safe.
Wow.
And so, and we changed our hours. And so we weren't able to everybody's not able to get 40 hours. So I'm covering their check up to 40 hours. Right.
That's admirable, man, because especially in the entrepreneurial space, I've seen a lot of, companies have to do layoffs, and I mean, it's just been, it's very unfortunate, so hearing that you didn't have to do any of that and you're still able to pay your employees through, man, I'm sure they really value working at your company.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we go back to do the right thing. Like, what's the right thing to do? This is nobody's fault. It's just the circumstances we're given.
Right.
And, I like to gamble and I like to play cards, and you kind of sometimes you have pocket deuces, and you just gotta man up and go with it.
Yeah, I love to play some Texas Hold'em, man. Dude, that's one game I can literally, I'm not even kidding you, I can sit at a card table for 10 hours and not get bored. Yeah. I go to the Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Sit over there 10 hours. I want to play all day.
Yeah.
And I love cards, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So, I'm really curious, Chad. What makes you a good, strong leader, right? Like, how did you step into that role? You know, because you stepped into the family business, right? And
yep.
I'm sure you had to develop a whole bunch of different skills, like how to run an organization, how to, hire people, how to lead people, how to keep people excited and keep the morale high. Like, how did you step into this role?
Well, first of all, there's no stepping into it. Like it just doesn't happen. And if anybody thinks that they're just going to walk in and start leading and growing a company, man, that's what I thought 15, 20 years ago. Right. I thought, when I was growing up, I saw dad and grandpa and they all worked on the business, and it's like, okay, well, why aren't you doing this? Well, or why aren't you doing that? And so, I was in the Boy Scouts, I'm an Eagle Scout. So it just came naturally somewhat to me, but there's a much better skill at refining, right? You have to refine your leadership, and it takes a lot of practice, and there's been some gut punches along the way. There was a time where I was in South Dakota and just basically got my heart ripped out that, I was no longer needed to help run a facility. And, when I thought I was doing the right thing, you got to step back and think about it. And you got to start over almost every day and think about it. And so there's a ton of instances where, probably when I get on that edge of cocky that I've got everything figured out, that's usually when the next sucker punch is coming. Like whether you fire somebody and you have an unemployment case come up, and you stop and you sit back and you think, and you're like, damn, I probably should have changed my approach. And so it's all about learning and changing that approach and never stop learning. Right. And there's things that, if I'd have known them now, my life would be, if I knew what I know now back when I was 25, my life might be on a different trajectory altogether. I don't know if I'd be at the family business. And so it's just a series of events. And I think the good leaders, what defines them are those that are able to actually sit back and learn from their mistakes and evaluate and take ownership of the mistake. Right? Because it's easy to put it on somebody else. Oh, well, so-and-so didn't do this right. Well, if you're the leader, you're supposed to ensure that they're doing it correctly, that the books are accurate. At the end of the day, your head is out there for everybody. And that's part of that's what I like about it. Right? That's the challenge. That's really what gets me up every morning is like, okay, what did I do yesterday? How can I be better at it? How can I motivate people? Okay, I said this yesterday and it didn't work. Like it didn't fire them up. It didn't get them going. So let me find a podcast. Let me find something out there that I can grasp, but I think these guys can relate to. And how can I move them forward? And, it's all about building up leaders beneath you. Right. And so that was one of the things when I came out of college, I was hard charging. I was going to show this world. Right. And I'm in, and I dominated. So I went to work for a grocery store, and I was on top of the training class, got out. I was the first person put in a managerial position with a bonus potential, all this kind of stuff. And what they do, they stuck me with the most senior guy, and he waxed me back down to, back down to the ground. But I learned all the way through it, and it was great. I still talk about this guy. He was this crusty old guy that was 67 years old, and his name was Darlin, and didn't even crack a smile at you, right? And so you get into situations like that, and he was just matter of fact, just handled people directly. And so you just build on those experiences. And like I said, I got a storybook full of those type of experiences that you just build on, and they're going to be different for everybody. And you just have to build on them.
Powerful stuff, Chad. Powerful stuff. I'm curious because, and I'm going to get a little maybe controversial here, right? Okay. I'm just asking out of pure curiosity, right? So you're in a family business, right? You know that your great-grandfather started this company.
Yeah.
Your dad's running the company. You know that it's successful, right? You have to know.
Yeah.
The family's doing well, right? We're selling food. Yeah. But you still went to university, and you said you even got a master's degree, which takes, 6 years?
Yeah.
So where did that inspiration come from? Like, most people would assume that, I got family business. I don't have to do jack shit. No college for me. I'm just going to sit on my butt. Dad's going to hand me the company. I'm just going to run it, But you didn't do that, right? You went to you put in your time, you put in the discipline, and you went to school. So, where did you get that from? Was that like a requirement? Like Dad said, "Hey, you got to go get your degree before you run."
No. So where it comes from is our family's competitive, right? Like we'll flip over the table in a game of spoons or Texas Hold'em or anything like that. Christmas time is always that way, but growing up in a small town, like everybody looks at you and your dad, my family owns one of the bigger businesses in town, right? Everybody just looks at you and says, man, you just got it easy. You've got it made in the shade. You're going to go work for your dad and this, that, and the other. And it's like, I'm better than that. Like, I don't want to be just known as Ronnie's son. Right. I've got to become my own person. And, I got picked on in high school, all that we all have. Right. And so it was just fuel for me, basically that, why are you going to go to school? Well, because I'm going to better myself. Like, I don't know where that comes from exactly, but it's always been a part of me. Like, hey, I'm going to get better. Like, I went back to get my master's because I was tired of selling groceries and working in retail. Like, somebody, a little old lady gets a gallon of milk, drives 4 places in July in Texas and says, "Oh, my milk's warm. Can you give me another gallon?" I'm like, lady, that's not my problem. I have to give her another gallon. But so that part of it, I was just like, I've got to do something better. Like, I get it. Grocery store guys make good money. It's, if it's their passion, it's their passion, but it wasn't my passion. Right. And so I've always kind of held myself to a higher standard. Like, yeah, I'm going to go get my master's so I can get out of this rat race. Right. And then I got into I started working for the large grain company, and I remember this, and my old boss still gives me a hard time about it. He's like, yeah, when I interviewed you, I asked you where you wanted to be in 5 years, and you told me you wanted to take my spot. You wanted to take my job. And I was like, well, yeah, I did. That's just part of it. And so that's why I moved. I had 13 different addresses. It was all part of the sacrifice to get better and to move up and to do different things, and it was just kind of one of those things where when people say, "Oh, you just went back to take over your family business," well, no, I established myself outside. Like,
You were doing
I
your
didn't
own
need the
thing.
family. I was
Right.
doing my own thing. Like, yeah, I could have come back and worked at the family business, and I don't know if we'd be where we were now, where we are now, right? Because it's kind of like on cruise control. That's where it was whenever my brother and I bought it and took it over. It was on cruise control, and that's the reason we had to buy it and take it over, because mom and dad were, you know, sailing into the sunset. Why we need to sell it? It's generating money. We don't. But at that point, we were like, yeah, it got four of us through college, but I've got four kids. My brother's got three kids. Like, it's not going to get everybody else through college just cruising on down the road like this. So it's all about being better and, proving to other people. Like, there's guys I went to high school that work for me now, and it's like, I don't hold that against them. Like, hey man, I'm glad that I can give you a good paying job and I can help you support your family. And we're going to continue to grow, and we're going to get bigger. And that's the whole goal, is to grow and to be bigger and to help support the community.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, powerful stuff, bro. You did your own thing. You proved to yourself that just because the family has a business, right, that's not all you're good for,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You could succeed in the outside world, and it's not the silver spoon
Yeah,
that a lot
yeah.
of people
That's
probably
the
thought you had, right?
yeah.
Hey man, I'll take this. I'll take the silver spoon, Chad. I don't give a damn what they say. If my dad, give me the spoon.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no, in all seriousness,
yeah.
I respect it, man. Now, I am curious. Running an organization, right? 60 people depending on you to show up to work every day. You got thousands of customers, right? Doing multiple seven figures a year. I mean, it's a pretty substantial operation. I'm sure that there's a ton of stress and anxiety and the feeling of being overwhelmed, right? Just running that type of operation. I would assume, I could be totally wrong, but where do you find the time to just enjoy life and enjoy your family without having to focus on the business?
So that's always that balance, right? And that's tough. Anybody that tells you they haven't figured out, they're lying to you. Especially, here recently, all the kids are home. The wife is at home, teaching four different classes and trying to keep all the kids, and there again, we're running thin up here. And so it gets stressful for sure. But there again, I mean, one of the mottos that I've just really anchored myself into, and you're probably familiar with this guy, but a guy by the name of Jocko. Have you listened to any of his podcasts? But
Refresh my memory real quick.
Jocko Willink. He's been on Joe Rogan. We
Yeah.
talked about Joe Rogan. So he's he's a Navy SEAL. He's
Navy
written
SEAL.
yeah.
I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be wrong, but I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So his big mantra is discipline equals freedom, right? And so then there's some other guys that I listen to. It's all about discipline, right? And so look, I get up at, not to hang my hat on it, but I'm up by 5 and on the road coming into work in the morning. And when I get home, I try to just throw my phone on the charger and walk away. And I try to draw that hard line of, here's work. And I really do, I mix a lot of different theories. And you got the 4-hour work week, that whole notion of don't get caught in a chat on an email, check email certain times a day, really push down. I tried to have decentralized command. So, enable people to make decisions, so I'm not having to make all the decisions. and really push that out on them, because a lot of people will take ownership in it. They all want the opportunity to make that decision. And whether you give it to them or not, like I've found over the last 7 years, 8 years, and this is one of those leadership things, right? I don't have to make all the calls. And there's not going to be anybody that I'm going to measure up that's going to be 100% make the right call for me, right? If I can find somebody that's going to make 80% of the right decisions, I'll live with the extra 20% because I'm getting more time out of it. So I've really pushed down to let my employees make decisions. Like, man, I don't care if you buy purple scissors or green scissors. Like, don't ask me that question. Like, just get them done. I may give you a hard time if you buy a pink pair of scissors, but hey, you got to get a pair of scissors, right?
Right.
Or, you know, a customer calls in, hey, they got a bad bag. Well, put yourself in that situation. I don't need to talk to the customers. Like I'm entrusting you to talk to those customers and treat them the way you want to be treated. And so, getting back to your question, pushing down and trying to deload some of that stress off of me and giving it to the team, right? And saying, hey, you guys make the decision. Are you running till midnight tonight? That's on you. Like, hey, I can tell you we need the dog food. Either we run till midnight or we get up early tomorrow. You guys make the call. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you got to run till 1 o'clock at night. You guys you can make the decision. I'm not going to force the decision on you. And that actually has just opened up my world a lot, right? I used to be home and I'd be sitting on my phone just waiting for somebody to call and ask a question. And so now I throw it on the charger and walk out of the room. I'll come back after the kids are in bed and, okay, well, nothing blew up. I'll deal with it in the morning, right? And so it's trying to schedule out that day, identify tasks that I'm good at, and that, like, I like to call them my high leveraged activities. And if it's a minimum wage job, I shouldn't be doing it. I'm not degrading any of the minimum wage jobs. Like, I'm not more effective for the company sweeping the floor. Now, hell, that's easy. I'd love to go out and sweep the floor for 24 hours, right? But that's not where I'm effective. I've got to push myself into the higher decision-making brackets. Like, I can't get caught up in, hey, you're using the wrong broom for the floor.
Exactly. And it should be that way, right?
Yeah.
It just should. But I'm sure if something needs to get done, you'll step into that role and do it because you care deeply about your business. But that's not your main focus, right? Like, and I've been preaching that forever, man. That's a really powerful takeaway. As a business owner, right? Especially like in my business, I speak from personal experience. I'm sure you would agree with this. As business owners, we must macro manage our operation. Like, we can't get tied up in all the minor little small details that can be delegated, because the more time we spend on those things, the less time we're focused on the overall operation and growing and scaling and, what do the numbers look like? And when we're wrapping up with, hey, did you sweep the corner?
Yeah.
It's slowing us down, right?
Yeah.
And you can
we
hire
got to have
people
the vision.
to do those. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We got to have
That's
the
powerful.
vision and communicate the vision, right? And so you've got to work on the business, not for the business, right? And so that's the big transition. That's the big rollover, and that's the aha moment that I've kind of had, and I had it back before we even bought my parents out, because they were working for the business. That was their mindset, is working for the business. And I'm much more want to work on the business.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I'm not going to get caught up if somebody misses something at a corner. Hey, we probably need to address that. But like, what's the bigger picture here? We hired somebody that didn't take notice of that corner. Like that's the type of thing.
And I want to touch on that briefly, because running a business that has employees, right, multiple employees, one of the toughest parts is having to let people go.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I personally don't like firing people. I don't like looking that in the face, because that's like a complex that I have. I know a lot of people may have it, but I feel as if I'm disappointing the other person. Meanwhile, they're the ones that disappointed me.
Yeah.
But I don't like to look that in the face. So how do you do it? Like, do you have like multiple like warnings and write-ups before you have to say like, I got to let you go? Or like, what's the threshold look like at your business?
So this is always a tough one. This is one of those that if somebody hasn't figured out, they're well on their way. Because I recently had to let go of a guy that, man, I liked him. He was a good guy, but he just was not effective. Just couldn't be effective, right? And so, I really look at it as I've kind of done a bad job. If I haven't coached you, I haven't put you in the right decision, I take that ownership. And from a standpoint, I look at it from a standpoint of, hey, man, this is not working out. It's on me. It's not on you. I'm not going to sit here and run you down because you did a bad job. I did a bad job training you, but it's not working out. You need to go find your passion somewhere else because it's not here. And it's really, I wish it was that easy all the time, right? Because it's kind of like the doctor coming in and giving bad news to somebody. I heard this one point where, the doctor's really got to practice in front of the mirror when you're coming out to tell the family there's a tragedy about to happen, right? And so you almost gonna I found personally, because I'm not the cold-blooded killer that just walks in and says, you're fired, right? I'm not that guy. I've got to have the conversation with myself of, okay, have I done everything to make this person successful? Are they willing to be successful? Do they want to be successful? Right. And so what I found is when you ask those questions, when you go through the answers, 9 times out of 10, that person knows it's coming. Like they have a sense, right? Because when you go through a write-up, I write them up. Okay. Here's where we're off. You didn't get this. I want to make sure that I communicated correctly to you and clearly. Like the expectations are set. When you have multiple kids, it's kind of like we told the oldest one, hey, go check on the youngest one. She's 4 months old. Next thing I know, she's walking out into the living room holding the 4-month-old, and she's 6 years old. And we're like, right. Well, we didn't tell her not to pick her up and out of the crib. We just asked her to go check on her. So sometimes they're doing what they think is right. And you have to establish, hey, this isn't right. Like, you got to set those expectations. And it's, part of it is when you're hiring, make sure you're setting the expectations. And, 9 times out of 10, if you hire right, you don't have to fire as much. But it's all in the hiring side of things. It's a people business. And, I always try to go back to the core and ask them, hey, is something going on at home? Like something's changed. Like what's going on, person to person, take out the business stuff. Is there something there? Can we help at home? Are you stressed? You need to take a week or 2 off just to get your mind right. Like, because there's sometimes I've run into that. They take a week off, and just go take a week off, go figure your problems out at home. Like you really need to be home figuring that out. Come back and man, there's nobody more loyal at that point in time.
Great strategies. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I want to dive into the challenges here. What would you say, since you've been managing and running the business, has been the most challenging part for you?
Man, probably the most challenging part was buying out our parents and managing through that relationship. Um, it's really awkward when you fire your mom and then you go to Thanksgiving dinner at her house.
I could imagine. I could imagine.
It's kind of quiet, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been, up until this point, that has been one of the most difficult pieces of it. Because just trying to, they're your parents, trying to make sure they're taken care of and they understand, and but then you're also trying to grow the business. And so that's just been the tough thing, is trying to manage through that whole transition period was probably the toughest thing my brother and I have been through. Because there's a lot of resentment that can come up on both sides. And it's hard to really explain unless you've been through it. But some people are thinking they're not, everybody thinks they're not getting a good deal, which means it's probably a very fair deal. And so then it turns into people just holding grudges and, not living up to the plan. Right. And so, hey, we're going to stair step this plan out, and maybe they weren't ready to step out. Well, or maybe somebody wasn't ready for it.
I'm just curious, Chad. So they decided to sell to you guys, right? Like, it wasn't like a hostile takeover. Well, that's kind of how it's coming off. Like,
well, so
like,
yeah.
Let
me paint the picture.
Go ahead.
So my brother and I, we came back. We were working for the business. We were growing the business, and they did nothing but criticize how we were growing the business. Oh, well, why are you spending money here? You don't need to spend money. Well, we got to spend money to make money. And then they actually brought in some private equity guys that wanted to buy the business, right? And we're like, that's fine. It's your business. You do what you want to do. Well, then they didn't get the number they were actually looking for from the private equity guys. So we said, well, what about us buying it? Okay, yeah, we'd love to sell it to you. Great. What do you want for it? Here's our number. Okay. And so then it became okay, a dance that we went to the banks. How much can the banks loan us? Like, we're leveraged to the hilt to get this deal done. Give them, the golden parachute that we're paying them out, their employees, all that kind of fun stuff, right? And so we did everything we could and gave them a very nice sum for their business. And after it was all said and done, they were more excited about the $300 set of suitcases that we bought them to go travel the world in than they were about the giant buyout. And all they could do was look at us and look at what we were doing and saying, oh, well, yeah, that's not how I would have done it. And so that's why I say there's resentment on both sides, right? Because my brother and I are looking at it like, we just paid you this money. Like, you're kind of supposed to be like on the sidelines. Like, you're supposed to be cheering for us on the sidelines, not throwing shit at us.
Right.
And so then it kind of felt like they were throwing a little shit at us. And because the year after we bought it out, we had the most profitable year on record. Right. And so, of course, we're thinking, man, our shit doesn't stink. And you guys were holding us back. Right. And so that kind of just breeded the resentment. And, I've got some other brothers and sisters. And so we had to do it this way. Like that, Dad was ready to get out. Mom wasn't ready to get out. Mom still wanted an office, still wanted to be around. But when they were gone on one of their vacations that they started taking, which is great. That's what we want them to do. Like we changed up the office structure a little bit while Mom was gone. Well, we had to, right? You're gone for 3 weeks. We got to change something to cover those gaps. Okay, we just made those changes permanent because at some point you're going to be gone. Well, then they take offense to it. And so it was, okay, every time we took something from them is like we fired them, right? And so you're firing this person 5, 6, 7 times, and it's like, man, this shouldn't be that hard. You wanted to get out. We wanted to make this transition, and now you fight it, right? And so that's when we just had to go bare knuckles and just, okay, it's over. Like we gotta end this, right? Because the quicker we end it, the less this stuff comes up, right? And so it
makes a lot more sense now that you explained, walked us through that.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Sweet, man. Chad, I ask every guest on the show the same question, man, and I'd like to extend that to you if that's cool.
Okay.
In your entire life so far, what has been the absolute best advice you've ever received?
Best advice. I think I'm going to take it back to own your mistakes and learn from them. Like you never fail. You just learn. Like that's as cliche as that sounds. That would be the best advice I think I've ever gotten,
own
man.
It's
mistakes,
just right. Don't point the finger.
Own those mistakes,
man.
Own them.
I love it. Accountability, man.
Yes.
Accountability. Well, Chad, dude, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here on the show. There's going to be a lot of listeners that want to connect with you, man, give you some feedback, reach out, maybe take you out for a cup of coffee. Who knows? What's the best place for people to reach out to you, man?
Man, I'm on Instagram, Bark Brother on Instagram, or I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter just to watch and eat popcorn. Like I don't interact much on Twitter, but Facebook or Instagram, you can find me, or you can go online to our website and reach out that way as well.
Hey man, the listeners might be buying some dog food, some horse food, man. Who knows, right?
Hey, there you go. You got racing camels with your people.
That's it, man, dude. Next time I'm down in your neck of the woods, man, I'd love a tour. I want to see the whole operation.
Come on, man. We'll teach you how to make dog food.
I love it, brother. Dude, absolute pleasure, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Yep.